All right, welcome to Yin Yoga. We're going to focus on the hips and the feet, so the lower half of the body today, which actually affects the whole body or the upper half of the body as well. So we'll go ahead and find a yoga strap or something like it. We will be using that today. And you can find a comfortable seat. We're going to start with a few deep breaths. You can shut down the eyes or soften your gaze and start to slow your breath, inhaling gradually, letting your breath kind of pause you from your day thus far. And as you exhale, letting all the air slowly empty out. We'll do that again, inhaling and exhaling. Once more. Then I'm going to invite you to do a counting breath. We'll do a count of 4 inhale and a count of 4 exhale. And so let's start with just a full breath before we begin. Inhale fully. Exhale fully. Inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 4. 3, 2, 1. Again, inhale 4 and exhale 4. Continue on your own. Inhale for 4 and exhale for 4. We'll take a final breath, inhaling 4 and exhaling 4. We'll just gently open up our eyes if they're closed. And we're going to start with a Sufi grind today. So we are going to stay seated. I recommend uncrossing your legs if they've been crossed already. You can extend your legs long and sort of bounce the knees or windshield wiper the legs. And then we'll come back to our seat. And so what a Sufi grind is this really nice circular motion, massaging the joints in the lower half of the body. So how we'll begin is you'll rest your hands on your knees, tilt to one side, and then lean to the front, kind of shining the heart forward and then over to the side, and then rounding the spine to the back. And you'll continue to go one direction. Let's do 8 circles here or so. What I love about Sufi grind is it can cure what ails you if you don't really know exactly. So this is good for digestion. It's good if you have some stagnant energy in your lower 3 chakras, good for your hips, lower spine. So we'll take 3 more circles this way. So this is good to do first thing in the morning before you start your day. Let's do one more here. And then you'll reverse and kind of going in the opposite way. Nice big circular motion. We'll be doing actually a lot of circular motion like this today. It helps mobilize the joints and nourish the joints of the body. Let's do 4 more circles. Breathing deeply. And 1. All right, you'll sit up nice and tall once you feel even. And then while we're here, just very briefly, take your fingertips to your shoulders and begin to draw circles with your arms, like your elbows have a pencil attached to them. And you're drawing circles in space with that pencil lead. And then we'll retrace our steps. We'll circle in the opposite direction a few more times, feeling that opposite firing pattern. One more circle and release. Okay, so we are going to do a pre-test and then a post-test. We're going to see how our feet feel in the beginning of class, and at the end of class, we're going to see how our feet feel again at the very end. So this is our pre-test. You'll come to hands and knees. And I will always like a blanket for my knees, but that's just, you know, a personal preference. And we're going to walk our knees and our feet together and then tuck all 10 toes under. And then from there, you'll sit your hips back to your heels. And so this is fire toes. You probably might already know what this is. We want to make sure that our heels are not sickling out when we're sitting back, but that they're together as we sit back. I want to roll our ankle in our yoga practice. And just checking in, you might rock a little side to side. We'll be here for about 5 breaths. If you want to come all the way up, if that feels comfortable for you, you can, but don't feel like you have to pressure yourself to overstretch here. So noticing the degree of sensation. So if 1 is no sensation, on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 is the most intense feeling of a stretch, where are you on that spectrum right now? Are you a 5? Are you a 10? Are you a 2? Just kind of checking in with that. I'm going to say about a 6 right now. And then we'll come out of it, untuck the toes, drum roll the feet. And then we get to lie down and have your strap handy. We're going to get into the hips next with this strap. So you can always take a blanket or something like a pillow-like and place it under your head when you're lying down. We'll just pause here. So we'll take a moment to acknowledge the floor below our body, lifting up to hold your body. Feeling your tailbone heavy, your glutes disengaged, your spine long and held against the floor. Your arms can be wherever you like them to be. Just take this moment to let gravity have you. Notice if there's weight in your feet, if there's weight in your pelvis. Notice you're feeling resistance from relaxing into the floor. And then we'll begin some more circular movement with our leg this time. We'll take our right leg up to tabletop and then open the left knee out to the left, just a little wider so that we can make some space as the right leg begins to circle. And we want to ensure that our right knee stays bent the whole time. We don't want to straighten and bend the right leg as we circle. We're circling our thigh bone in the hip socket. So just being mindful of that. And the circles are as large as comfortable. You might hear a lot of clicking or popping, that's normal. Let's take 2 more circles this way. And then we'll change direction, begin to circle again. Arms are holding you a little bit steady against the floor here. All right, and then we'll cross our right ankle on top of the left thigh for a number 4 stretch. You can pick your foot up and interlace the fingers behind the thigh. We'll take just a moment here. Making sure the neck is relaxed. You might check in with your shoulders, shrug them up and down a few times in case they feel clenched. Taking steady, deep breaths. Noticing breathing in and breathing out. Now we'll take it a step further, getting into the outer hip a little deeper. We'll stay just as we are, but you'll release your hands and you'll slide your right leg all the way on top of your left leg. So there's no space between your thighs. You can grab the front knee, pull it in. You could grab the back knee, pull it in. You could even, and this would be way more intense, but you could grab up each foot and pull your feet down towards your hips. But we want to ensure we're in a sustainable place, that we're not biting off more than we can chew in terms of sensation. All right, let's go ahead and release that all together. You can take your feet to the floor, knees up to the ceiling or legs long. Checking in with that right glute and outer hip. Noticing what opened up. Maybe your right hip is heavier than the left. Noticing your left outer hip and glute. Maybe there's a variation in the two. And then we'll begin on the other side. So this time, taking the left leg up to tabletop and then opening the right knee a bit wider out to the side to make some space as you begin to stir the thigh bone around in the socket, like you're stirring a pot of chili. Just noticing how this side feels. The hips will move across the mat, that's fine. We'll do 4 more here. And then reverse, circling the other way. And then we'll take it into that number 4 stretch. Cross that left ankle on top of your right thigh. You could certainly stay here actually if you're noticing a stretch. Otherwise, pick up your back foot, interlace the fingers behind the thigh. We'll take a moment here. you're welcome to stay here, or we'll take it into a deeper version. You'll release your hands, but keep the legs up in the air and slide the top leg all the way across your bottom leg. So there's no longer space between the thighs. And then you can grab the front knee or the back knee and pull in. You can even grab the outer feet, the outer edges of each foot, and pull down for even deeper stretch. We'll gently unwind the legs and you'll pause before we move on, taking note to what opened up from that previous stretch. Maybe there's a bit more width and space across the hip bones. Maybe you feel heavier on the floor with your hips, your feet, your spine. And then we'll all roll to the side and come up to a seat. We'll take deer pose, and if you're on a hard surface and you have sensitive ankles, you might cushion one of your legs with a blanket. You might be fine just on your mat, but just keep that in mind. It might feel good to get a prop to cushion yourself. So how we're going to take deer pose is, if you are seated in a cross-legged seat, we'll lean to the right sitting bone and then bend the left knee back so the left shin is parallel to the left wall. So you want to end up with this shape. So you have one leg externally rotated, one leg internally rotated, and it's really good for the hips to be able to internally rotate. So that's why we're working on this one. And then if you want to pad that foot, that knee, that ankle, you could take that blanket as needed. All right, so we're in deer pose. The first step is to check in with yourself. And so see if you can sit up a little bit here. If it feels next to impossible to sit up, I recommend some sort of prop to sit on. This will elevate you just enough so it's just easier to sustain this. So experiment with sitting on a prop, see if you think that's a good idea for you. What we do want to feel is a stretch in and around this left leg. Okay, so from this tall seated spine, you might already feel a stretch. You might feel your inner ankle, your inner thigh, your inner hip. And you might stay here. If you need a bit more sensation, then you'll slowly migrate back. So you would just walk the hands back a little bit and just kind of lean into your hands and just hang out and see what unfolds. So right away, you might start to feel a little stronger sensation deep in the hip, deep in the thigh. This might be where we stay the whole time. We might stay up the whole time. We might go a bit further, and I'm going to turn to the side to show you the third option. The third option, usually I would put a prop back there. I wouldn't put my elbows all the way on the ground, although you could, but I do feel like that's a pretty intense leap from being back on your hands. So you're back on your hands and you want a little more sensation. You can then find your props and stick them under your arms, right? So we have lots of options. Go ahead and find a place that works for you, where your legs can stay heavy on the floor. And we'll be here for a little bit of time. Being conscious of your belly rather than tightening it or clenching it. Can you let your belly start to open itself up a bit? Expand in the internal organs. The arms can be straight and the shoulders can rise up a little bit. We just don't overdo the shoulder shrug here. We'll be here for 10 more breaths. Decide how you want to spend the remainder of this time before we move out of deer pose. Let's take one more breath here. Inhale. And as you exhale, we'll lift back up, and then you'll take a moment to unwind your legs. And before we go to the other side, just take that moment to let your both legs become long, maybe bounce the knees for a moment. And find neutral before we go into side two. All right, and then the second side, we'll bend our right knee back. And of course, you can put a prop under your shin and ankle and your knee. And then from here, you might notice there's a big difference of the two legs. I'm noticing that today. So if one leg is feeling tighter, listen to that, or looser, listen to that. And so maybe just start sitting upright and allowing time to soften anything that feels a bit tight or rigid. And then as you're ready, as your body tells you it's ready, then you might walk it back, just check out, see how that feels. Maybe a little further after a few moments. We'll be here a little bit longer, so about 30 more seconds. Decide how you want to spend that time before we come out of deer pose. All right, we'll come out of that and you can regroup by extending one leg long at a time. Oh. And then we get to lie down again. Yay! I love that. I just love resting on the floor. Okay, so this is where we're going to use our strap. We're going to floss the hips in this next thing. It's a really good thing to do. And you might even feel like your leg gets longer, which is my favorite feeling here. Go ahead and lie all the way down. And since we're focusing a little bit on the feet, let's address the feet as well while we're here. So you'll hold your loop right at the middle of the loop. You'll put your right foot on that loop. And I know you can't really see me when I straighten my leg up, but I just want to highlight this one thing. You're going to have your leg up to the ceiling with the strap around your foot, and you're going to rub all along the bottom of your foot, waking up all the nerve endings. You have a ridiculous amount, like something in the ballpark of 220,000 nerve endings. And you know, when they're in shoes, they don't get stimulated like they were designed to, and so we can feel a little disconnected to our feet in that sense. So we're reinvigorating those nerve endings. And then we're going to place the strap right at the ball of the foot. That's just below the toes, kind of the widest part of the foot. We're going to hold that strap in our hands, and you'll pull straight down on the strap as if you intend to plug your thigh bone deeper in the socket. You can keep your left knee bent, left foot on the floor, or extend it long. It's up to you, but this will be our first stretch we'll do today, where we're simply holding steady. We're not exactly actively pulling our foot towards our face. We're going more for a rooting the thigh bone down in the pelvis. So that requires your foot to stay stacked directly over your hip, like perpendicular to the floor here. And we'll be here for some time. Make your arms relax. You can rest your elbows on the floor. You could reach up higher with straight arms. Just notice the grip in your hand. We can relax our grip probably a lot more than we realize here. And so we want to feel a hamstring stretch. Now, the more you flex your foot, the more you straighten your leg, the more you'll feel. So find the right amount for you. We'll be here another minute. So I do want you to feel like it's sustainable for this time we're here. We'll take 5 more breaths here. Now we'll do a slight variation while we have the leg in the air, we have the strap. Excuse me. We'll gather the strap, both of the ends of the strap in the left hand, and then the right hand will hold the right hip down. And then you'll move your leg across your body 2 or 3 inches, not enough to lift your hips in the air. We want to keep our right glute heavy on the mat. So we're looking to find an outer leg stretch in this pose. It's an IT band stretch, if you know what that is. So the more you flex your foot, the more you lengthen your leg, the more you might find that stretch. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And last one, go ahead and bring the leg up. Now remove the strap and pause. Both legs can be long, but take inventory. Notice how your 2 legs feel. Comparing the 2, how does the right leg feel? Does it feel long and spacious and circulation? Does the left leg feel almost like the opposite? Or do they feel similar? I like to look down and bring my feet side by side, and sometimes it's like a little bit longer, that right leg, which is my favorite magic trick or party trick. All right, we'll come back to both feet on the floor, both knees bent, and we'll do all that again, this time with the left leg. So we'll take the strap around the left foot, and we'll begin, and I'll just show you as I open my leg out just so you can see. We're moving the strap all across the sole of the foot, the whole entire foot rather, just to reinvigorate those nerve endings. And then we'll move the strap just below the toes, right at the ball of the foot. You'll pull straight down. That'll help encourage the flexed foot. We also want to think straight-ish leg. It doesn't always have to be 100% straight, but allowing the thigh bone to sink deep into the pelvis. Right leg can go long, and we'll hang out here for a little bit. Finding your breath. And just checking in with your hands and shoulders. We've already been holding the strap, so they might be a little tired, so please ease up on the strap if it feels a little rigid. We'll be here for 5 more breaths. Then we'll gather both of the straps, this time in the right hand. Hold the left hip down with your left hand, and then move that leg across your body at maybe 2 or 3 inches. You don't need much because we want to keep both hips heavy on the floor. You might straighten that left leg a little bit more here. You might flex the foot to feel more in the outside of your leg. We'll take one more breath here. And then as you exhale, slowly release and check out your legs again. Notice how your hips feel. Notice how your legs feel side by side. Maybe there's more similarities in the right and left legs. Let's do something for the chest and shoulders. And it also will affect the hips as well. It'll help to open the hips. We'll turn onto our belly for Sphinx pose. So what I love about Sphinx pose is if you sit at all at a computer, at a car, in a chair, this really helps to counter that seated posture that we, so often will find in our daily routine. So you're lying on your belly, your elbows are on the ground. Let's tuck all 10 toes under. Start to crawl the legs back behind you like you're growing longer in front of your hips. And then you'll untuck your toes. You can take your feet a bit wide, maybe as wide as the mat if that feels better on your low back. And then you can decide on your arms. So typically you'd have your elbows just an inch in front of your shoulder line, but you can do more. So if this feels like a lot on your low back, a lot of compression, you can walk your elbows even more forward, and that can let it be a little softer. But we're going to take this time to activate the arms, press down into the floor with the arms, pull back with the arms, and feel your collarbones wide. Let your belly relax into the floor here. So active arms, and everything else can relax. Take about 1 more minute here. take our final breath. Inhale fully. Exhale, let it go. And then you can start to widen your elbows and lower all the way down. Let your head rest on stacked hands. Just take that moment to pause, feel the circulation in your low back. Maybe to release your low back, you might want to bend your knees and windshield wiper your feet for a moment. And then we'll make our way up and we will revisit our foot stretch we did in the beginning and just see if it's a little different than before. So we'll come back up to hands and knees. And again, if you need to pad your knees, do so here. We'll take fire toes again. You'll sit your hips back to your heels, feet together, knees together. Find that stretch. It may not necessarily feel easier. It might feel deeper, like you are now feeling another layer back of stretch from the previous layer. So that's kind of how that connective tissue stretching works, is you release a layer and then behind that there's something else more to release, and then behind that there's something else more. And so you just might feel this a little more deeper, but again, you can revisit that 1 to 10 scale, 1 being the easiest stretch, hardly any sensation, 10 being the strongest sensation. Find out where you are on the scale this time. Might be a different number, might be the same. For me, I'm noticing this is more like a 4. Previously, it was a 6. So. All right, so that's our pre-test and post-test. Then we're going to stretch the front of our foot, the ankles next. So let's come forward, untuck your toes, tap it out. And then if you're on a hard surface, I would recommend having a blanket under your feet, because we are going to open the tops of the feet and the ankles next. And if you're on a hard surface, that might not feel good. So finding something of a cushion, really anything will do. And then you'll sit back on your heels with your knees together. And this already, Thunderbolt pose is called this pose. This already might be very much of a stretch. So you might just be here, feeling the front of your ankle opening. That's awesome. If you want a little more, you can walk your hands back, and that can be quite a big stretch. Now, the third option to go even deeper, now this will require a bit of core and a bit of effort. You would curl your belly into yourself and hover your knees. So yeah, that's an interesting feeling. So any of those versions will do. We'll take about 10 breaths wherever you want to stay. Let's take one more breath here. And then gently coming out of it, stages. All right, we get to lie on our back again. And this time we'll stay on our back for the remainder of class. So if you want to use a blanket for your head, you're welcome to find that again. We're going to take a pose that's basically happy baby, but in yin yoga, we take happy baby and we make it very still and very steady. So you can start lying all the way down on your back, opening the knees rather wide, and then shining the soles of the feet up to the ceiling. And you're welcome to grab your calves or shins and pull straight down. You can also grab the outside edges of your feet and pull straight down. We want to think wide knees, bent wide knees here. You also want to feel heavy in the back of your pelvis, your sacrum, your tailbone, and it may not necessarily feel like the sacrum's on the floor. So you might have to kick your feet away from your hands in order to get the back of your hips down. We'll take our final breath here. And then as you exhale, you can just gently release. And if you like to, just bend the knees, hug them in and squeeze them, and take this time to massage along your low back against the floor, rocking the knees. Just letting some of that release happen in your low back. And then as you feel ready, start to set yourself up for our final pose, Shavasana, which could just mean legs up the wall if you want to take legs up the wall today, or it's as simple as letting your arms and legs go long. You can, of course, bend your knees instead if that feels better for your low back. Gliding your shoulder blades together behind your heart, and feeling the front of your chest opening wide, collarbones wide. You can take a few swallows, relaxing your throat, letting your brow bone release, letting the eyes sink further back in the sockets. We'll take this time to rest fully. Shavasana. Begin to soften the gaze. Gently move around the fingers and toes, wrist and ankle. Just finding a little bit of gentle movement to help us transition back up to a seat when you're ready. We'll just take this moment to have gratitude for our practice, this ancient practice that has been handed down from teacher to teacher for many, many, many generations. And having gratitude for yourself for showing up for yourself today. Bring our hands together at our heart. Om Shanti, 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 peace, peace, peace.